now we understand the BIOS has two main responsibilities. The BIOS chip, it has the first responsibility, it has post, and the second one is what is post and what is boot loading. Post means power on self-test. As I said earlier, whenever you turn on the computer, the post is performed, means the integrated check will take place. BIOS will perform an integrity test or integrity check, which is nothing but the integrity test between the all of the components. Their integrity will be tested. And the boot loading means the operating system, if you have Linux installed in this hard drive, this could be either HDD or SSD. This could be Windows also, but there should be a corresponding bootloader program. Let's say this is the bootloader program, and the size of a bootloader program is typically ranges within 2 to 6 MB. 2 to for BL, the bootloader. So we are done with this process. Now let's see the boot loading in more detail. Bootloader is also called boot agent. So for every operating system you install, either the Linux or Windows, there should be a corresponding bootloader application or bootloader program. These are basically low level programs written in C languages and assembly languages, which is faster than the C program. So it's the BIOS, it comes under the BIOS responsibility to check for this bootloader while performing this step, the bootloading step. It will look into your HDD or SSD or any kind of secondary memory which is non-volatile, and then it will upload the bootloader application or program, which is again a low level program, into the RAM. As this is loaded into the RAM, the BIOS finishes its operation. The BIOS will put itself into rest. It will finish its operations. It has nothing to do anymore. So as the bootloader program or boot agent or bootloader is loaded into the RAM, it will load the required operating system modules or simply put programs that are required to finish the boot process. Let's say this is our operating system, be it Windows or Linux. In general, in true sense, in practical sense, an operating system will be divided into thousands of modules. These are all modules or programs or sub-programs. Programs contains sub-programs. So the bootloader will call only the required module, like this. If these three modules are only, if these are the modules that are required for finishing the boot process, then the bootloader will do the same. It will call this, and this, and call means the bootloader will call only these three modules. Calling means copying. The bootloader will only copy these three modules to the RAM, and as they are all loaded into the RAM, the bootloader finishes its job also. So the BIOS completed its task, the bootloader also completed its task. Now these three modules are loaded into the RAM and available for the CPU to execute. And as these modules are executed by the CPU, we will be finishing the boot process. And now let's say as the boot process finishes, we can see the desktop if it is a CLI based system or command line system like old Atari computers, Apple computers, or those 10D computers, all those 16-bit, 8-bit computers. They used the CLI systems, the MS-DOS, and BST systems, Unix systems. They were all CLI based. They had no graphical user interface. So whatever the case is, if our system is CLI based or GUI based, as our system finishes booting, we can see the desktop or CLI. Now if we need the application, if we need the calculator application or some other application to execute, they are already present in the operating system package, but they need to be uploaded to the RAM in order to be executed. So whenever we are performing some or running some command line like calc or calculator or any other command for any specific application, then that module, let's say this is a calculator application, this is already residing in the operating system, but after calling that application, means after running the specific command, this module will be loaded into the RAM from the operating system package which resides in your SSD or HDD, and finally that module will be again available for the CPU to execute, and finally you have the calculator under your mouse or in your fingertips. So this is the way how the RAM is not flooded. This is how the memory is managed, because if the total, let's assume that, suppose if the total operating system, if all of the modules are loaded into the RAM altogether at once, then there will be a memory flood. The RAM will be flooded, and if it is a low memory, if it is a small RAM like 4 GB or 8 GB, then the full memory will be flooded and there will be no space left for the useful work or operations. This is how the memory is managed by the RAM, by the operating system for the RAM, and this is done by again these modules. They are smart enough to manage the memory in smarter way, so the memory is not being flooded and we can keep running the system alive. Now one more thing to consider, that is the BIOS chip. Let's say this is the BIOS chip. These are the pins, input output pins. This is soldered in the motherboard, and this chip, this integrated circuit contains the BIOS system, basic input output system, which is responsible, as I said, for performing the post and the initial boot loading or boot loading. It's not initial, it's fully boot loading, and as the bootloader is loaded into the RAM, and he will do the rest of the jobs. to finish the boot process. So one more task that the BIOS does, that is, it does the bookkeeping. Bookkeeping means BIOS also maintains a list of settings like date, time, boot order, and lot of other things are there. Most commonly used are date, time, CPU, fan speed, Intel virtualization technology, enable or disabled. So if we take this example, like this is the time 12:30 AM, date 20/20/20, boot order CD DVD, then HDD, then SSD. Let us consider a basic structure or picture of the BIOS bookkeeping. So this is how our BIOS does the bookkeeping. BIOS, there are a lot of fields and their corresponding values which are actually saved in the BIOS memory. Again, that memory is a volatile type memory of RAM class. As the RAM is a volatile memory, BIOS also implements some kind of volatile memory similar to a RAM. So here we are taking 4 basic settings that we used frequently in BIOS. Time, for the time, this part is called the name, this part is called the value. So if we are calling this as a power, if we are referring this, if we are saying this is a value, then this would be the value name, this side would be the value name, and the other side this will be the value, no, cannot say value because this is itself a value. So if you say that time is a property here, so this will be the property name, this side will be the property name, and this side will be the property value. So here on the left side, our property value, our property name is the time, and the property value is the 12:30 AM. And again on the next line we have a property named date, and again on the other side, on the right side, we have a property value, that is the date itself, and then the boot order, which is again a property name. The corresponding value is CD or DVD, then the HDD. This denotes the flow, this arrow denotes the flow. The flow will be from here to there and finally there. And finally the final property name is here Intel virtualization, which is by default enabled. So let's say these are the factory settings, these are the default settings, we have not changed anything. As we bought the motherboard, powered in on, after turning the power on, we opened the BIOS settings and we saw that these are the settings. So the time, it was set by the company, the manufacturer. These are all basic or factory settings or default settings. Intel virtualization is enabled. Boot order, one more thing that we need to consider, that is boot order. What is boot order? Boot order means, as I discussed earlier, BIOS performs the boot loading and it checks for the bootloader in the secondary type of memories. So if there is a CD DVD drive in your system and HDD and finally SSD, then it will first check for that bootloader into CD DVD drive, then the HDD, then the SSD. Means if you have BSD running in BSD operating system running in this drive, Windows in this drive, and the Linux in this drive, they all will have their corresponding bootloaders, but in their respective devices. Means Windows bootloader and the Windows operating system will reside at HDD, and the counterparts will be also be in their devices, in their drives. So when looking for the bootloader, first the BIOS will attempt to find the bootloader in CD DVD. If there is no disk, if the CD DVD drive is empty, then it will skip this the checking, because there is no drive, so there is no question arises for the bootloader. Then it will search for the bootloader in HDD. If there is Windows or Linux, whatever there is, if it finds, if it gets the bootloader in this drive, then it will simply load that. If this HDD doesn't contain any of the operating system, or it contains the operating system but the bootloader is somehow corrupted or not present or damaged, then it cannot load the bootloader into the RAM, so it will again skip this drive. Finally it will load the Linux GRUB bootloader, which is again for Linux the bootloader is GRUB, Grand Unified Bootloader. Windows is NTLDR. NT is itself the Linux, the Windows NT kernel. Windows NT means the kernel, NT means Windows NT, and the Windows kernel, the name that was given to Windows kernel was the Windows NT. So we are saying please load the, not please load the, we are referring to the Windows NT loader, means a loader which loads Windows NT. LDR means loader, and GRUB is Grand Unified Bootloader. So the BIOS knows them. BIOS knows how to identify these loaders. They have specific markings. How so the BIOS can identify them? They have specific identifiers, so BIOS will easily find them and load them into the RAM. So this was all about the bootloader, the boot order. Intel virtualization is again a property which is used for running virtualization technologies in your desktop environment or in your operating system. Now let's move on to the system software. What is a system software? A system software is nothing but a software which resides on the bare computer hardware system. If this is the bare computer hardware system, the motherboard and all those peripheral devices, then the system software will reside on the top of the hardware. I'm writing this, I'm denoting the system software as operating system. So as the hardware is also divided into thousands of electronic components, the operating system, which is again a software, is also divided into thousands of modules, as I said earlier. So they both are divided into their components, but they are acting as a whole. This is the whole thing. The whole thing this makes computer hardware and the whole operating system or set of components. This makes a computer system software. So it is the responsibility of the operating system to do the low level manipulations, to manage low level workings in their computer hardware system. The operating system will manage all those low level manipulations, all those bit level manipulations, and all those things that are not understandable by not a human being, which is not manageable by a human being manually. We cannot manage the bit level manipulations. We cannot perform the bit level manipulations manually in case of a bare computer hardware system. So the operating system will perform those low level operations on controlling all those thousands of electronic components, their bit level changes, modifications, controlling them, opening the CD/DVD tray, and performing serial communications, time management, memory management. All those things they will be introduced in later sessions. But right now, which is the main thing, that is the OS will always reside on the hardware. Hardware cannot reside on the OS, because OS is instructing the hardware. OS is manipulating, managing times, manipulating low level operations, and doing all those critical things that a normal human being cannot think of and cannot do manually. Those all things are done by the operating system. And finally, coming to the application system, application software. An application software is nothing but another type of software. They all come into same category. The system software is also software, the application software is also software. They all come under one umbrella, but the only difference is that the system software is doing everything. It is doing the bit level manipulations, it's managing time, it's managing memory, and it's doing the multitasking, running multiple processes. Now those processes are the applications. Applications are specific softwares. They are dedicated to perform a specific job. They are not doing everything. If we are talking about a camera application, the only job of a camera application is to take pictures and save them. The only job or task of a music player application is to load a song file and to play them. So their task, their jobs, and their usage are predefined. They are dedicated to do one thing. The music application is dedicated to play music. The camera application is dedicated to take pictures. And similarly, many other applications are there. Office applications, they are only dedicated to perform office level tasks like writing, taking email, sending emails, and taking printouts. All of those manipulations, those specific kinds of jobs, tasks, they are carried out by the application software. So they all again reside on the operating system. Let's say this is application software A, this is B, and finally C. There could be a large number of application software running on the operating system, provided that there is no memory shortage and no memory flooding. Let's say you have 16 GB RAM, 16 GB RAM, and you are running hundreds of this application software. This could be similar application software, means 100 extensions, 100 instances of same application, or 100 different applications you are running all together at once at the same time. That is possible just because of your operating system, because it knows how to do the multitasking, how to manage all those processes together, because you have only one processor, and all of these applications, they all needs the processor to be executed. So it's the operating system duty to allocate time and execution power to all these applications. So these are very much important duties that the operating system conducts. It does the memory management, time management, multitasking. This thing is called the multitasking. A number of applications, number of processes are being executed together, and they all are running at the same time. But that is not possible, because we are talking about a system which only has one processor. It is not a multi-processor system, it's a single processor system. So there are many applications but only one processor. So the operating system should know how to handle this crisis. It should know how to allocate the time and the execution power to all of its applications running on the top of it. So this is how the operating system comes into the picture, and this works as a bridge. The operating system works as a bridge between the application, between the apps and the bare computer hardware. If there is no operating system, there is no time management, no memory management, no multitasking, and no low level bit manipulation. So it will even not possible to install these apps. Where you will be installing the apps, as you do not have any operating system? So as I said, the operating system works as a bridge between the bare hardware and the apps. In the absence of operating system, when there is no operating system, you will not be able to run a single application. Only you will be able to play with the BIOS. Just turning on the computer, you will see some post messages, listen some beep if there is any problem, and you will have to turn off the computer again. So this is the system software and application software. And again, one more tip that I think I should tell you right now, and that is, when I was talking about that bookkeeping property of BIOS saves all those values, all those settings into its own flash memory. The BIOS, it got a flash memory. Flash for most latest systems, the BIOS memory is basically a flash memory. What is a flash memory? You should have probably heard of. I expect you to know that for recent systems, the BIOS contains a flash memory, which is nothing but an EEP ROM memory. So this is the flash memory, public or /EEP ROM memory, electronically usable programmable read-only memory. So in this case, whatever the settings are, we can make changes to the factory settings or the default settings, like as I was talking about those four properties: the date, time, virtualization, Intel virtualization, and the boot order, there are many lot of settings or properties. So when you are not tampering with them, we are not changing any of those fields, they remain at their factory settings. Whatever the manufacturer has set for that setting, it will remain at that setting. It will not be changed unless you make changes. So all of those settings are saved in a flash memory, kind of flash memory or EEPROM memory. This is for the recent systems, and older systems, 3 to 5 years ago, those systems, they do not have this EEPROM memory or flash inbuilt for BIOS flash memory. They will have some kind of volatile memory, RAM like memory. They will have they are likely to have for the older system, which is 3 or 5 years older, they are likely to have a volatile memory, which is RAM like memory. So when there is a power loss, all those settings, if you make some changes, if there is any power loss event or power failure, then the changes that you made, they will be lost and they will again get back to their factory settings. Let's say this is a setting, this has to be 2. This is the factory setting or default setting. 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 fields and their 4 corresponding values. This is the factory settings. But if there is any power loss event or power failure, then this will again get back to the 4, the factory setting. This is how it works. In case of volatile RAM like memories, both kinds of the memory are inbuilt in the BIOS. If the BIOS contains a flash memory, modern type of memory, recent systems, then EEPROM memory will be there and your settings will be there. They will not get back to the factory setting on a power loss event, because in those cases the BIOS is not dependent on the power. It means when the system is turned off, when the system is in low state, turned off, then the BIOS is not expecting any current, any voltage, it's better to say any power for maintaining this record. No, for keeping alive this memory. But when there is a power loss event, in case of volatile and RAM like memory, as for the RAM memory, as the RAM works, it will simply do the same thing here also. This will the changes or the change I have made, that will get back to the factory setting. If it has to be 4, then it will be 4. Now the question arises, how in case of older system which are 3 to 5 years older, how do they manage when the system is turned off? How do they get power to maintain these records, to save to keep those changes, to so those settings, they do not get back to the previous state, the factory state. They actually depend on an external power, which is a CMOS battery. A CMOS means complementary metal oxide semiconductor. This is a CMOS battery. The model is generally CR 2032. This is a CMOS battery, stands for complementary metal oxide semiconductor. This battery will provide the power to the BIOS, so the records are not changed. If there is any power loss event, in case of older systems, if there is any power loss event, let's say there is the copper traces, the copper, these will have two copper traces. If one of the trace is not working or broken, or the battery, for the general case is if the battery is discharged or if the battery is not working, then all of them, then the RAM, the volatile or RAM like memory will not get power, and as you turn off the computer, the battery will have no function, and all those changes you will make, they will get back to their factory settings or default settings. So this is the main problem. That's why in recent systems the flash memory or EEPROM memory is used in the BIOS, and this memory is inbuilt in the BIOS. This was also inbuilt in the BIOS. So in this case you do not need to depend on external power supply. Whatever setting you made here after installing the system, those will remain same. They will not get back to their default setting. So this is enough for this session. Next we will talk about next sessions will be on the system, the hardware in more detail, the system software, the application software and their types, how do they work, their internal workings, how those applications which are residing on the operating system, how they communicate with each other, which is also known as IPC. If there is many applications running on the operating system, they communicate to each other with the help of IPC, which is known as inter-process communication. Those applications are also known as processes. So if there are more than one application is running on the system, on the top of the system, then they will be communicating with each other using the concept of IPC, which is known as inter-process communication or IPC. So there are a lot more things to be discussed. This is a vast field, so I will be making videos on all of these things. Thanks for being with me for a long time. Thanks for watching.